Well, good afternoon, everybody. We are just a few minutes away from getting started. I'm still setting up a few things here in the studio. We'll start right at the top of the hour. For members of WPStudio, definitely join the private chat there on our regular chat room. That will get information directly to me. Ask your questions there. If you're joining us on either YouTube or Facebook, welcome. We'll talk a little bit more about that after the webinar. So we'll start right at the top of the hour. 3 or 4 minutes to go. You'll know we're really live when the little banner that says starting soon goes away. So go ahead and grab a cup of coffee, and we will get started with our Pods webinar, Extending WordPress, shortly. In just a minute or two, I will turn on the screen share so that you can follow along with our live development. If you've never been on a WPStudio live event, you'll know that I don't cookie cut anything. Everything we are going to develop from scratch. I might show you some examples, but we are going to be working on live websites. There's no better way to learn than to actually do it in practice. So about 2 or 3 minutes to go. I'll go ahead and share my screen. You should actually be looking at the Pods website, hearing my voice. And I'll go ahead and flash up a nice little banner there. All right, for all members of WPStudio, don't forget to join me on the private chat room at wpstudio.com/chat. All others, I hope you will enjoy the simulcast to both Facebook and YouTube. We'll talk more about that at the end. So we got about another minute to go, or minute and a half to go before we get started. When 1 o'clock hits, we should drop the starting soon banner, and we'll be off to the races working with the Pods plugin. This is just kind of our pre-show banter, have conversations. Hope you are all doing well this Wednesday, that you haven't gone stir crazy, stuck in your homes. But if you haven't been shopping to a grocery store lately, you'll know that I think everybody is baking because there's not a single packet of yeast, or baking soda to be found. For my members of WPStudio, yes, you can go full screen. I believe you should be able to click on the YouTube link. If not, head on over to the WPStudio YouTube link, and then you can open the chat room in the same chat link that I sent to you in your email. All right, it just turned 1 o'clock, so let's kick this off and get going here. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to another live WPStudio training event. This is a special event because we are not only broadcasting to the members of WP Studio, but also simulcasting to the YouTube and Facebook channels of WP Studio. So welcome to the new attendees. We'll talk more about that later. Today, just to give you a brief overview of what we are going to do. This webinar is part of a series of webinars we're doing here at WP Studio, looking at ways to extend the capability of WordPress. Yes, we'll be looking at how to do it with plugins. We'll be looking at how to do it with code. But the premise for this whole series of webinars revolves around the concept that for many people developing with WordPress, building websites, blogs, client sites, simply using the blog post and the blog or the WordPress page are limiting. Those are two of the primary post types that are inside WordPress. And so there are times we have clients who need custom solutions like articles. Maybe it could be press releases. Maybe it might just be status updates that might not be a traditional blog or a page. So that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to start off by taking a look at the kind of the basics of pods. We're going to then look at how fields fit into pods, and then I don't want to leave you hanging. We're going to also then look at how to see the fields that we create on the front end of WordPress, and then we'll drive into a kind of like a real world example which we will build. So again, all the members of WP Studio, you can find our private chat room at wpstudio.com/chat. And for those of you joining on YouTube and Facebook, welcome. We'll talk a little bit more about that at the end. So without further ado, let's dive off into the deep end and start to look at the basics of pods. So the basics of pods revolves around a plugin that we can install in our WordPress site. Now you can either download the plugin directly from the pods.io website, download it right here, or it's easy enough if you go into your WordPress site and you can search for the word pods and you can install pods directly from this location. Now, just to alert anybody, if this is the first time you've installed pods in a long time or the first time you're coming back, the Pods team recently added integration with the Freemius plugin or the Freemius framework. I am not a big fan of Freemius because of all the stuff it does in the back end. But just to let you know that you're perfectly fine. You can opt out of all the tracking if you don't want Freemius and Pods team to be tracking different things about your use case as well as some future sales opportunities that Pods is bringing in. So I just wanted to put that out there. So what I'm doing is I have a pre-built WordPress test site. And we are going to go through and install Pods, which I've already done, and we are going to look and see what happens. So when we install Pods, we are all set to have a Pods section here, an admin menu area. Most of the time, if this is the first time you are seeing Pods, you are going to be seeing this page, which is basically at a point where we can create a new post type or we can extend something. We're going to start with creating and then we're going to extend something just so you can see the two differences in Pods. Most people out of the gate, if this is the first time you're using Pods, you will be wanting to create something new. This is that illustration I gave at the very beginning where you have a client or you have your own site and the client says, you know what, we need to release press releases. And so we don't want to put it on a page. We don't want to put it on a post. We want to create a new content structure. Now, just as we're going to take lots of rabbit trails during this type of a webinar. The way WordPress stores data, the content, it's in a database, And the back end of WordPress operates like a data entry point. We're filling out forms in which to save content into the database. Now, the themes, which we'll look at towards the end of this webinar, is how we pull information out of the database to display it to everyone. So, to make our life easy, we're going to create new data structures where we can enter information. It will be stored in a unique manner that is slightly different than posts. For example, and I'm just going to jump over here to the post area. If we are writing a post in WordPress and we come here, we have our title, we have our content, we have our categories over here on the right, we have our tags, we have our featured image, we have other things like SEO and discussion options, and there's all sorts of things that are very specific to the posts. So, when we add something to the database using this, it stores it as a post so that on our front end, on our theme, we're able to say, go get me all the posts that are stored using this entry point, and then we're going to display it. So with pods, when we go add a new pod, we're now saying, hey, we're going to store some information in the database as a press release, which we're going to create here in just a moment, and it's going to store all those things with similar systems so that on the front end, using the WordPress loop and the query, we're able to say, go get me all press releases, and then we can display it. That's kind of the storage at a 10,000-foot view. All right, so when we create a new custom post type, I can simply just say, am I using a post type? That's like a post or a page. Am I going to create a taxonomy, which I can link to posts or pages? I like to think of taxonomies. These are file folders or sticky notes that we would put onto each one of the posts so that on our theme and our query, we can begin to filter. We can say, go get me all the posts that have a category muffin or something like that. Now, in today's webinar, we're not going to be dealing with the settings page. At WPStudio, we have done a lot with showing how you can do settings pages. So, all right, so let's create our first post type. And to get started, Pods makes it super easy. You just have to say what type of, or what's the name you're going to use. And so we're going to do press release. Press releases. See how easy that was? We hit next step, and before you know it, on the left-hand side, we now have press releases that are ready to take our data entry. And it's going to then save those in the WordPress site. Now, quick overview of a few of the other items so we can set up our new custom post type in a unique format that makes it more user-friendly. So I want you to know about 3 areas. We'll deal with the fields in just a bit, but there's labels, admin UI, and advanced options. And at the end of the webinar, we'll deal with templates. The labels are where we can change the way WordPress displays the labels in front of different forms. So what we're going to do to make life easier, I'm going to open up two windows. So we're going to have an add new on press release. So notice how it says add new press release here. It might have all press releases. Add new. These are labels. So if I look at this and say, oh, here's something that says add new press release. What if we're dealing with a client or a company that is very particular about what they want, or maybe we want to help them out slightly different. So with this add new press release, we are going to see, let's change the name or the label to prepare a new press release. It's slightly different, but let's just save this. And immediately we are going to see no major changes here. Still is there. But if we go back to this add new press release and we refresh, we're now going to see it say prepare a new press release. Notice how I haven't touched any code, and we have now been able to modify the output or the use case for our clients. This is why one of the reasons why Pods is so useful to anybody doing client work, because we can provide customization without the need to spend hours in our code customizing things with WordPress action hooks and filters and everything else like that. All right, so that labels are there. You can see that you can go through in every single instance of generated content that would appear in the admin screen. We can change all that. Now, in the admin UI, there's several things I want you to know about. The admin UI is the user interface that exists that tells Pods where to place our press release stuff. And I'm going to focus on just a few key areas. The first one is this menu icon. By default, the menu icon is Pods is always going to use this little thumbtack. Now, WordPress for years, and it will continue to be so, ships with a pre-built or icon library. It's called Dash Icons. You can learn more about that if you actually go to developer.wordpress.org/resources/dash icons. The reason why I'm saying this is we can simply change the icon that shows up here by finding an icon that we want. So let's find something that looks like a press release. You don't have to use anything that says, quote, press release. But we can jump through here and say, you know what? Let's just use a simple item. Let's do this globe here. I need this right here. Dash icon, dash admin. And let's go ahead and copy this. Because I go back here to my menu icon, just paste the dash icon that's here, save, and you will immediately see that, oh, look at this. We will have, once it loads, did I pick one of the brand new dash icons that don't exist yet? I did. So dash icons just got a huge update where they added about 36 new dash icons, and I just happened to pick the one that is not has not been included in the current version of WordPress. So I'm just going to grab a different globe that I know works. So we'll go back to the admin UI. Let's change it and save. We'll wait for the page to reload. And I'm wondering if I have a caching issue. I'm just checking to see if it's hidden there. All right, well, let's see. This is the great thing about live webinars. Now we get to go down another rabbit trail while I try and figure out what in the world did I just do. So let's do exactly their example, star empty. Let's see if that will pull up a star empty. All right, what we're going to now do, I think I know why. Guess what? I am connecting to the insecure version of our test site. All right, so again, if you've never been on a WPStudio event, I always work on live sites. And so therefore, what we've just run into is something that you'll probably run into if you are working with test sites. And okay, what we're looking for is making sure we're trying to figure out why it's not secure. So we have a certificate, and it looks like there are some images that are being pulled in from the site that are not secure. All right. So this is the first thing you do. If you ever run into this, you need to check and make sure what in the world is going on. Do you not have HTTPS on here? Looks like we do. So therefore, we're going to come back over here. Where'd my pods go? We're going to edit our press releases. Somebody made a great suggestion that there was a space in front, and that's exactly what it was. So thank you, Ben, on the chat room for pointing out the obvious. Sometimes you just have to go and dig in and try and figure out what's going on. So notice what happened after we got rid of the space. We now have secure things. So what it was trying to do is trying to load a dash icon that didn't exist, so therefore it couldn't grab the actual image, because currently dash icons are font icons, which are by definition icon images. The future version of dash icon is going to be an SVG system, so you won't ever run into that in a future release of WordPress. All right, so there's our little rabbit trail for those of you watching on the live feed or the replay on YouTube or Facebook. Thanks for hanging in there. Okay, so let's get back here. So the admin UI is very helpful on, if you do it correctly, adding your menu icon. And then we can change the location. If you've never played around in the admin menu here on the left-hand side, you should just know that everything basically starts from a number 1 to 100, or any number that you can do. So if I want to change the location of this, I can simply add a number. Let's do a menu position of, let's do 100. I'm going to save this, and you're going to see that our press release is going to move down here. There are identifying numbers of priority on how these menus are constructed and placed. So by giving it a specific number, we can move things around. You also have controls on whether or not you are going to show things in the navigation or not, show it in the admin or not. Those are all benefits. So other things before we go into dealing with fields is the advanced options. For today's webinar, we don't need to deal with anything. We'll come back to this archive page. But if you scroll down here, you can see all the different capabilities and functionalities that we can add to a custom post type created by Pods. If you want to learn more about this, we have much more in-depth webinars at WPStudio. But over here, this is how we can choose what type of supported functionality we're adding to the custom post type press releases. So by default, it's always going to have title and editor. That's that content area and the title box. But these are things that might exist on regular WordPress posts or regular WordPress pages. The author, featured image, and custom fields, comments, post formats. If you decide you want one of these for your content or for your custom post type, you can simply just enable it. We're not going to do that right now. So once you've done that, save the pod. Now, Pods has the ability to, one of the reasons why I like to use Pods is this functionality I'm going to explain to you. If you write in code a custom post type, which you can, put it in your functions.php, make it into a plugin. If you want to make changes, you have to go rewrite that code or insert that code. If you want to change any of your custom post types, add functionality, change functionality, Pods allows you to manage them within a management screen like this, where we can easily edit, we can easily add fields, we can easily subtract fields, we can easily customize the functionality. So that's one of the reasons I really enjoy working with pods. But before we get into fields, I want to show you the benefit of using pods is because I can extend something that already exists in WordPress. So I can come and say, you know what? Any post that you currently have. Now, we're not talking just regular WordPress posts or regular WordPress pages. I'm also talking about custom post types that might be built by other plugins. So maybe you have a plugin that you're using that creates a custom post type, but you wish you could add an additional field because let's say you're using a camera photo blogging plugin, but for some reason they don't have a field that you can enter the location you shot the photo at. Well, with pods, we could go in and we could extend that. Now, for this example, I'm just going to come in here and say, all right, let's go ahead and extend, which these are all different types of custom post types that are on this site. We're just going to update and extend the regular WordPress blog posts. So I'm in the extend, I'm configuring it, I selected the post type I want, I click next step. Now, notice how I can't really go in and change the user interface, the admin options, because we are not changing how posts work in WordPress. We are simply adding additional fields that we can use on the front end or on the data entry, and then we can insert it into the look and feel of the site. So when we look at how to add fields to a pod, whether it's an extended pod or a new custom post type you're creating with pods, everything revolves around these fields. So we're going to do this with our extending of regular posts. When I hit add field, we are given a 4-tab option, and the options that appear will change based on the field type we add. So now I just saw a question pop up. What do post formats do? This is an old thing that basically got abandoned by most theme developers and WordPress, but it's a element of regular WordPress posts that people could say, hey, this is just a quote. This is a status update. That's what post formats do, but it requires the theme or the developer to stylize the output of the different type of posts. Basically, without going into too much detail, it was WordPress's attempt at having a competitive element of Tumblr and the way Tumblr did. All right, so let's jump back here into fields. We are adding an additional field to posts. So let's go back way back. We're going to turn regular WordPress posts into MySpace updates. So if you remember the old MySpace updates, you would also do I'm feeling whatever. So our label is how are you feeling today? So what type of field are we going to do? We could offer a plain text, a link to a website, put our phone number down. We could do a paragraph text. We could add a visual editor for people to use. We could do any type of field. There's a lot of different options. So we're going to do 2 or 3 different things. So I'm going to use a plain text. I'm going to leave that here. But I can come over to additional field options, and let's limit it to 100 characters. Because we don't want somebody just writing an entire blog post in their feelings. We're trying to keep it a little more manageable. I can come over here into the advanced options. Again, this allows me to restrict who can use it, what you can do, who sees this field. Pods has ultra fine grained control so that different roles that exist in WordPress could see different fields on the same post type. So there's some really cool things that you can do with that. So I'm going to just go ahead and save this. And let's add one more just so that you can see that there are several different types of fields that you can deal with. So I'm going to add another field. And let's do what time of day? The reason why I'm picking something is I want to do a simple a relationship. So basically a relationship is a field that has other fields that it can fill in. Sure, I can connect this to other posts, other things, or I can do a simple one, which is going to now turn it into a drop-down list. So morning, afternoon, evening, night. Save this. Now, when I save this pod, notice how I have several different fields. We're going to come back to this, but I want you to look at this middle column right here under name. At the end of this webinar, when we begin to display this content on the front end of in our theme, we need to know what these are because these are the identifiers of this specific field. So when we enter content, we have stuff here. We need to be able to pull this stuff out of the database without being a super coder. All right, let's go back and take a look at our posts. So I have a few posts here that have already been written. And these were written in prior webinars, so there's some crazy stuff in here. I'm going to edit this. The reason why we're going to do this is I want to show you those two additional fields that we added. So if I'm going to come down here, you're going to see these more fields. Now, ignore all this stuff. There are different ways you can customize the back end of WordPress. We're not going to deal with that today, but I just want you to see, look, I now have the ability to, how are you feeling today? I'm feeling very happy. And then I can say, all right, it's the afternoon. Notice how with regular WordPress posts, you couldn't do this. But now we can add additional fields. We can add new functionality. So I'm going to update that. So now stored in the database are these additional fields that are now automatically associated with this specific post. All right. Again, let's talk about adding fields to the to posts, because now we need to customize what these press releases look like. So if I went over here to this add new press release, the one that we just created, basically what we're looking at is the title, the content. Now this is this is from the plugin. This is from the theme. This is from the SEO plugin. So I'm turning those things off just so there's not confusion. These are coming from other themes and plugin elements. All right. So we need to customize things that revolve around the press release. So we're going to go back to our post. We're going to edit we're going to go back to pods. We are going to edit our press release. So things that we would have here is maybe we need to begin to say, all right, let's add a field that is, release date. Okay, so we got a release date. Let's go ahead and put a date on here. And you're going to see that because we selected date, we can predefine the format. How do you want that date to output? What about if you want to set a certain year range because you don't want them to have the entire range of the date, the years? You know, we don't need them to go all the way back to 1912 or something. So you can actually see that all we have to do is figure out, all right, we're going to do 2010 through 2030. Those are the only years that you can select. You can see how that's done right here. Now, I'm going to save that, And I'm going to come over here and say, let's say, what else we need? We need things like PR contact. So this PR contact is going to be a name. So name of contact. You're going to see what that looks like in just a moment. And then most PR press releases also have PR phone contact. In which case, I am going to now say that this is a phone number. The reason why we're choosing that field is I can come over here to the additional fields and select a format. Notice how these additional field options that allow us to pre-format and filter and verify, validate these fields all change based upon the field I choose. All right, let's go ahead and save that. Now, if I want to change this, maybe if I just want, what about if it's international? Different countries are going to have different validations. So basically, if you're doing international phone numbers can be added, it's too difficult to validate every single type because like a US phone number may not validate against a Nigerian phone number or something. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll just use the very basic format. Save that field. All right, let's go ahead and save the pod. And now when we refresh on our press release, the prepare a new press release, we have the ability for us to add our release date, our PR contact. Notice how it has a description there that should be helpful, that this is the name of the contact. So let's fill this press release out. Super muffins discovered. This is absolutely an amazing time to be alive because you get to see how horrible of a speller I am. Luckily, Grammarly to the rescue. Okay, so we can come down here to our release dates. Notice how because we chose a date, we get a drop down, making it super easy for our clients to deal with this. And Bob Bobertson is the one, and it's 555-123-4567. Great phone number. All right, let's go ahead and publish this. All right, now, for most people who start working with pods, this is the point where you're like, okay, I understand this, or I can get to this state, but this is where I fall. What is that? Showing the fields on the front end of WordPress. So let's take a look. We have a press release. We had additional fields. Let's see what this looks like on the front end of our site. We come over here. Great. There's our super muffins discovered. This is an absolutely amazing time. Where is the other information? Where are those other fields? Well, there are multiple ways to display the content on the front end of a WordPress site. I'm going to show you one or two of them. And we are going to use probably the easiest and fastest way, and that is simply using Pods templates. So Pods templates are an add-on, a component of Pods that comes pre-installed on every brand new Pod installation, any WordPress installation that you add the Pods plugin. Now, if for whatever reason you've had Pods on your WordPress website, you haven't really used it, and it's just been sitting there, you'll want to go to the components section in which you're going to find templates and go ahead and enable templates. You need that to do what we are about to do. Okay, so we go to our Pods template section once it's enabled, and you will see that this looks like a custom post type. It's exactly how we would be doing all this stuff for our WordPress, whether it's posts, pages, or any of the custom post types that we create. So we're going to add new. Now, what I'm about to show you is the reason why I think using Pods templates is the easiest thing to get started showing your content on the front end. So, or showing it on your theme. Really doesn't matter what theme you're using or anything like that. This will all work. So the only thing you do need to know is a tiny bit of HTML. If you remember the old days of using or writing HTML, you're going to find this as super simple. If you are unfamiliar with HTML, that's definitely a skill and a thing to learn, because it'll make your life so much easier. Because if you know how to open a paragraph, open a div, insert information, you'll be able to use Pod's templates to do some really incredible things. So let's come over here and we will call this our show me my PR fields. Again, the name of this template doesn't matter. It's simply for you to know what content you're doing. Now, before you get into anything in this template section, we want to find our pod's reference. So this says, hey, we're going to use press releases. And immediately, this drop-down is a list of all the field values that are stored in the database that are part of press releases. So basically, you might want to think about WordPress database as a giant mailroom. Let's say you're a big business or just the U.S. Postal Service. Every custom post type might be a different post office. So when we're storing information, we send a letter to the press release. It's going to go to the press release post office. And then the postmaster at the press release post office is going to look at all the fields you filled out here. And each of those fields is a different P.O. box. And it's going to say, hey, I need to put something in when the last time you put post content. I'm going to put a field for post title. I'm going to fill all those post office boxes with information. Now, again, this is just an illustration. It definitely breaks down quickly. But this is trying to give you just the reference that there are tiny folders of information that for every single press release, they get a different box of storing. So this pod reference gives you an output of all the different fields we can choose. So, for example, if our big concern is, you know what, I don't see my additional fields. So let's go ahead and add those additional fields. Let's do something like this. So we're here on our add new pod. I'm going to do a simple, let's do a div. Can you see that? I probably should zoom in slightly just to make it a little bit easier to see. Div, and then we can add a class later. But I'm going to do a paragraph tag because what I'm looking for is, down here is the release date. So I am going to say press release date. And then I'm going to close the paragraph tag. This is a point where we get to use something called Pod's magic tags. These is like the old school mail merge, where we're taking those fields and saying, hey, if you have something in this field, place it here. Now, because it's called release date, that's all we need to know. But magic tags are activated by using that open squiggly bracket and the @ sign. If we are inside the template area for Pod's templates and we hit that open squiggly brace, the @ sign, it's going to give me a drop-down list of all the different fields. Same thing that's here. If we change the pod reference, this will change as well. So I can either click this, double-click it, and you'll see it show up there, and then we got to just close the brace. And all of a sudden now, that release date is going to show up. And then let's do something like this. Strong contact. And let's do this. Let's close the strong. And we're going to @ and we can start Again, you can come over here, PR contact. The great thing about working in the pods template is it has autocomplete. So I can start typing, and the moment I have highlighted the magic tag I want to use, I can hit the tab and it will complete that. So, and then let's also put the phone number. PR, phone, completed. All right, so here's my little HTML layout. This is where you can add your own CSS, your styling, whatever you want to make this unique. But we're just trying to do this as quick as possible. So let's publish this template. Now at this point, it is as simple as connecting the pod to the template to display the content on the front end. So let's go edit our pod, edit pods, go back over here to our press release. Remember I said it kind of at the beginning of the webinar, I said we are going to take a look at this auto templating option. So we're going to click on that auto template option for our press release, and we're going to enable it. And for our single view, so this is when we are looking at a single post of this, a very specific one, or this specific press release, we are going to connect our book archive. Where do you want to put it? I want to put it after the regular content. So this is if your theme does not operate using a traditional loop system, the traditional WordPress loop, you'll want to do this after, so that basically you take the current setup, and then once your theme is finished creating or displaying the content, we get to show this. So I'm going to hit after. Save this pod. So I've got my pod now connected to an auto template. So I can now refresh, and we are going to see on this single post page for the press release, we have our information. Now, oh, guess what I did? I actually picked the wrong... I picked the book archive. So what happened was I used a template from another webinar. That's why it didn't show up. Let's make sure we have that. Oh, show me my PR fields. That was the name of the template that we were using. So let's switch this up, and now we should have a successful completion of showing the content on the front end. All right, so that's saved. And again, you always have to save the pod in order to see the changes. I was wondering why there was an author and a book pages thing showing up. Okay, so there, look, there's our press release date, and there's our contact Bob Robertson. And based on the fields that are filled out, this changes. And it was as easy as attaching a pods template to this area. Now, this next step is something that frustrates a lot of people that I want to kind of take this rabbit trail. Let's take a look at this. So if I were to be looking at the homepage, the default homepage for a WordPress site is going to have a list. Basically, it's all the content in a feed. So here's title, content. It's just a feed of the content. It's called the archive page. It's a listing of all the items. You can also see your archive if we were to go to different things like show me all the posts from March of 2020. And it will create an archive list. Here's our one. Hopefully you're familiar with how WordPress deals with archives. Now, if I were to be looking at press releases, let's go back to our press release. technically, WordPress should be able to, without any work, give you an archive of all of the pods, the custom post type posts, like the press releases. But notice how we got a page not found. That's because in the advanced options of that pod that we're editing, again, edit pods, choose the pod you want to do, the custom post type, go to advanced options, you're going to see enable archive pages. By default, this is off. So by default, there are no archives for a custom post type that you created with pods. If you need an archive page, which is probably a good idea, just simply check this. Now, if you want to change this, see how this says press release, press-release? It's pulling that slug, press release, it's pulling that slug from the name, the title of the name, the identifier of this custom post type. I can override that for just the archive page. So we'll call this one PR. I'm overriding this. Let's go ahead and save this pod. Now, the reason why I'm doing that, let's go back over here. And we're going to refresh. Not found. So let's look at the new slug, PR. And now PR gives me the super duper muffins. Notice how it says press releases. Well, I click on super muffins discovered. See how we now get our press release up there now showing. So that's the URL slug structure. It's part of the permalink in WordPress. We have the flexibility within pods to manipulate that without dealing with code. So what are we doing with our archive page? Because if I go to the archive page, which would be a list of all the press releases, why isn't it showing all the stuff that I want? Well, go back to pods, auto template. You are going to now have the option of an archive view template. Sure, I can go ahead and use the exact same template field if I want. Save the pod. It's after the content. Let's go refresh this. And now we will see that we will have that information added. But I'm going to do it slightly different. We're going to go create a new template, pod template, and we will call this one our PR archive. So we'll do it really simple. Add new, and let's call this one our PR. Got to wait for that page to load. Archive view. I'm going to select this, select my press releases. Now, let's just do something really dumb, like put everything under an unordered list. LI. Title. And then we can do post title. See that? We're just going to pull that item out. And then we can do a release date. What is it? Release? There. Release date. Now, that's not going to link directly to our post because this is going to be a list of all our items. So what I need to do, and then let's do this. We're going to use a simple HR, a horizontal line at the end of every single press release listing. But I want to link this, so we're going to add an href. Oops, let's find this. This is what you're looking for, is the permalink. And I don't think it actually shows. But basically, permalink. that's going to give us a link directly to this post. All right, so let's publish this. And now we have a special archive view that's completely different than the front, the single post. But notice how, you know what, if I were using, let's go back here to our, I have to refresh on this so that we can load that new template. If I were to use the after option, which you'll see here in just a moment once this loads, go to our auto template. I'm waiting for that page to load. Auto template. Notice how I chose the after, because the after went in and said, hey, you already have content here. You already have, as part of your theme, the title and the content. And we're just adding this stuff afterwards. I want to replace it for the archive. So let's go ahead and say, hey, we're replacing what the theme supports. So now the only thing we're going to show is this PR archive view. We're not going to allow the theme to put content that we're not controlling. So let's save this pod. So now I'm replacing the themes template file for how to show the archive with our simplistic pod template file. I come back over here to our press release. We're refreshing on our PR, and we are going to immediately see there's our title. Super Muffins Discovered. Release date. And notice how it's now linked. I can take it to the single post page. So, yes, there are many different ways of showing the content. We're already going long here. Yes, you can go on theme template files. Yes, you can use short codes. You can use custom solutions like Beaver Themer. That's a Beaver Builder add-on. You can use custom loop plugins that will extract the information, these different fields, create its own template. All those are definitely ways of doing this. Now, if you are the only person developing, Trish, your question that just came through to me, how do you handle not showing field labels on the front end if you don't have an entry? Great question. Let me do one other thing, and then I will answer that question. So, some of you may feel like, hey, I'm the only one who operates my WordPress website. Is there a simpler way for me to show content? But because I don't want to deal with templates, I don't want to write any of that. I'm simply going to be writing a blog post. See this? I'm going to be, we'll write a blog post right now. I'm writing a new blog post. Wait for that to show. This is a new blog post. Brilliant. This is, oops, come on. And now we're waiting for my server to die because it just seems to take forever today. Hopefully the internet's doing okay. This is the content that I will share. Oh, good. Thank you, George, for reminding me that I did schedule this for 90 minutes. All right, so I'm going to come over here and let's fill out those fields. I'm feeling awesome. What time of day is it? Evening. So I filled this stuff out. But again, I already showed you the first time through, hey, we'd have to go create a template that would add these additional fields to our blog post. But it can be easier because Pods gives you short codes. I can come in here and say, you know what? My feelings are display a field from this item. Again, there's different things you could do. Which field do you want? At this point, we have to remember what the field name is. And I have no idea what it was. So let us go back over here to our pods. This is what happens if you forget the name of a field. You literally have to go back to the pods editor, go to our post that we extended the regular WordPress post. We're editing so that we can find the field name. How are you feeling today? I should have remembered that one. Basically, it was exactly the label. So we're going to copy that, go back over here. Which field are we wanting to put there? That's what we're wanting to put there. See how it puts a short code. Now you might be saying, well, why do that? Well, what if we have different fields that we're going to use multiple times on a long blog post? And then to make life easy, if I ever want to change this, you'll see why in just a moment. Let's publish this. And let's go take a look at this piece of content on the front end. Close out of some of these items I don't need. Oops. All right, let's take a look at this piece of content. It says this is a new blog post. Feelings. I'm feeling awesome. So let's just pretend that this is a gigantic 40,000 word blog post. And we have used that shortcode in multiple locations. And all of a sudden, I decide, you know what? I'm not feeling good anymore. I'm feeling blah. Well, I can go back to my pod field that I added, make this change here. I don't have to mess with the actual content because the pods field is already pulling that information in. I just simply update my post, and then everybody else who visits the post after this will now see the modification. So that's why you might feel it's easier to just use those little short codes, add the fields directly into the content. And this way, you did not have to write any template. You didn't have to hook up any template. You didn't have to do anything like that. You can simply handle that. Now, the question that was asked in the members area, this is how do you show a field that doesn't have an entry? So let's go back to our press release, and that's where I'll demonstrate it. So I'm going to close these out. Let's go to our press release pod. So what happens if, over here, let's take a look at our press release. What happens if we don't have a date associated with the press release? So as this field opens up on our site, so let's say there's no release date, but we still want PR contact and a phone contact. So what I want to know is I want to remember the name of this field, release dates. This is a little more advanced than I was planning on going to, but it's a quick little example. So let's go to our pods template, and we're going to look at our show me the PR fields. Notice how in this one, there's a release date. But I have some hard-coded labels like press release date. So if we went over to, let's take a look at let me just open this up in a new tab. Oops, nope, that's going to be in the exact same tab. All right, let's just jump over here, view, then I'll go back. Okay, so this is going to the front end, just so you can see the front end. Give it a moment to load. Okay, here is our press release. We're going to change it so that pods will check first to see if a value has been entered into a field in order to choose whether or not we display something in the template. So we can use it's very simplistic. It's not an advanced PHP function. We put something that looks like a shortcode. It's an if statement. And then I just type the name of the field. And this is going to do a search and say, hey, if there is something in that field, See, if release date will show this. If there's no release date, we're going to ignore the stuff that's inside this if statement. So let's update this. You're going to see that when we now look at the front end, everything is going to be perfectly exactly the same. Nothing will have changed. I'm refreshing this just so you can see nothing has changed. We still have this release date, but let's go now edit this press release. And we're going to remove that field. So we come over here. All right, now we're going to remove this. Come on. Okay, so there's nothing entered in here. Let's update this. We're saving this field, saving the post type. We're going to view that press release. It's gone. That hard-coded press release date label has now been completely eliminated because there is no date. It's that easy. Again, that is as simple as adding an if statement, release date. Now, the other thing you can do is add in an else statement. Else, this is released immediately. So what this is doing is saying, if there's no release date, basically as soon as it's published, it's released. And it's all dependent on the release date. So if I hit update, I now have an if-then statement, an if-else statement. So we can come back over here, and we should now see a statement that says this has been released immediately. Now, we're not going to be getting into Beaver Builder today or any of the page builders. The problem, for those of you who are asking questions about, well, how does these templates fit into page builders? It actually depends on whether you are using the page builders to modify the actual content of the website, or if you're using the page builders to simply structure the frame of the entire site. Meaning the outside, you're leaving the theme's ability to handle the actual output of the content. If you are using something else, that's probably a different rabbit trail we'd have to chase at a different time. The if-else statement only works within templates, directly in the templates of pods. If you need if-else statements outside of pods, that's where we'd have to get into PHP. We'll have to go into template tags. We'll have to go into queries because we have to check the metadata of each post to see whether or not a field has been entered information. This is why getting started with pods, providing a layout output, so Brent, your question on can you use pod templates in a hook? We're not going to be drawing. Yes, you can, but we'd have to do it within PHP. In today's webinar, I'm not going to go down the road of building out a PHP query. If that is something that people desire, if you're on, Facebook, or if you're on YouTube watching this and those are things you want more in-depth pods things where we will go through the process of actually writing the PHP code to do all advanced things, let me know either in the comments, either liking the post or following or subscribing, all that type of stuff. That way I know these are types of webinars you want. Our goal today is really to make sure we see how pods can extend WordPress and then at least get you started on showing the information on the front end. I hope that makes sense. All right, so since we still have time, I've got a real-world example for you. And the reason why we're dealing with a real-world example, this also shows one of the things that I like about pods. And that's we can add the pods plugin to an already existing website or a client site. And it makes it super easy to develop beyond or add new features. Or let's say you're building a site for yourself or clients. You've structured it out, and then that client gives you that dreaded phone call that says, "Oh yeah, I know you're almost done with the website, and we're launching tomorrow, but I want one other thing." Yeah, that's the one where you go back to the contract, you charge them extra. Again, if you want contract stuff or how to deal with clients, let me know in your comments. But in this one, let's say we had a client, and we have they're going to be a bookseller. And they've done all this work. We have our information. We've got our great books here because the client had already agreed to all the information of simply wanting to be able to show the title of the book, a synopsis, summary of the event, and also wanted to have the name of the author and the length of the book. And then all of a sudden, the client says, yeah, I want to put an image there. Whoa, you're like, I already developed all this stuff. I went through here and I said, all right, so we're going to create our content. And we've already created our template that adds in the additional information. Maybe you even had stylized an archive page where you were going to be able to display the different content in unique ways. So how do we add something that it already exists on your WordPress site? This is the great thing about working with pods because, yes, you can cowboy code, do it live. You can move everything off to a staging site and push it back. Either way, it really is easy to add new functionality to a WordPress website, to the different custom post types using pods, and nobody will know the difference if they're visiting the website. So let's go ahead and say, they want an image. So let's come over here. And we're going to come to pods, and it's as simple as, all right, what are we going to do with this? Now, I don't want to use the regular featured image of WordPress because my theme already comes with custom display of featured image. I want to be able to control the look and the feel of the book image. So I'm just going to create a new field in my books here. Manage my fields. We're going to add an image. All right, add that field. So this field that we are adding, did I press the button? There. This field we're adding, we'll call it a book cover. I can come over here under the options. It's going to be a file image. Now, in this file image, I can choose in the additional details of whether or not we're going to connect it to the media library or we're just allowing them to upload, whether we're going to have multiple images. I can even come in here and put restrictions on the type of images, how we're listing it, the labels we're going to use, and I'm going to just go ahead and use what's currently existing here. We're going to save this field. Now we have a book cover. Save the pod. Now, I'm doing this on a, quote, live site. I'm not going to break anything for my client site. And while I develop this, we don't have to worry about all the past books that don't have this field yet because we're going to use that if statement that I just showed you in the template. So we've got our book cover. Now, let's go back to our pods template. In our pods template for our book, we're going to come over here. Let's book archive. Looks like we didn't create a single one. We're just going to use a regular book archive. So where we have a author, strong, blah, blah, blah. Let's just, at the end of this, we're just going to div. Let's float this to the right. We'll use some crazy CSS. Float this to the right. Now, I want one of the new fields. Look, I have multiple options for my book cover. The book cover image, the source for the thumbnail. I could simply just do book cover, and then I could do all those things, but watch what I want to do. I want to add source medium. So it's the medium size thumbnail that is already created by WordPress. But I now can wrap this in an image tag, source. See how it's getting me the actual source URL of the image that is created by WordPress. And I can do other things in here, like actually add a width equals 100. We're using old school HTML. So we can now force this into this height. And before we do this, we don't want to mess anything up for all of those posts that don't, or all those books that don't have a book cover. So we're going to do an if book cover. And we're only going to show this image if there is a book cover. So we're going to update this. And we're perfectly fine for the 4 books that are already in the custom post type showing on the front end of our WordPress site. See this? Everything's perfectly fine. Nothing's going to be out of reach because we've made an if statement. So let's come back over here and let's edit one of those books. I'm going to open this in a new tab just so we can have a few tabs open here. And let's just pick this one, Danger Book. Basically, I just went to Amazon and grabbed some descriptions. Coming from scandalous Florida treasure hunter and drug smugglers, Sloane McPherson is for... I'm not sure who wrote it, but I think I went to the top 10 bestsellers. So if this description says, like, I must read this now, do not go look for the book Danger Book. It's some other title. And no, it was not written by Danger Man. All right, so let's add a book cover. I believe I have some images in here. All right, this is Danger Man. We're adding that file. Update. All right, so now we have Danger Man book cover. But if we now go to our list of books, this is the archive page. Our template, now, let's go down, scroll down. Where's our Danger Book? Oh, look, there's our image. And it's really small because basically we only gave it a 100 pixel by 100 pixel capability. And obviously my HTML was broken because here's the extra div tag. And it's that easy. So I've been able to then take an existing WordPress site that already had content, that already had layout, and I just needed to add an additional feature. And I did that by extending using pods, adding an additional field. When I go to the template, wrapping whatever it is that I'm adding with an if statement, and nothing will be, quote, blown out of whack or messed up on the theme of the front end because prior posts, prior custom post type entries didn't have that field yet. So using pods to not only add new custom post types, so now this site now has press releases, books, pages, posts, all different things that can be used. We also took a look at how easy it was with the template to use these magic tags to auto insert the different fields from each of these custom post types. And all of this was done without having to do any PHP. Yes, we can do much more advanced things in code and all sorts of other great adventures of styling and customizing. But the greatest amount of code that we did in today's webinar is some simple HTML. And so this is one of the reasons why I think pods is one of the easiest methods of extending WordPress beyond just being stuck in posts and pages. So, I hope today was a helpful day for everybody. That at least if you've used pods or you want to remember pods, this is a direction that you can go in the future to extend WordPress sites. There are some exciting things coming with pods. There are a lot of add-ons that you can use that are free, and there's even some premium things coming for pods. If you like to use Beaver Builder or Gravity Forms, you can integrate pods with that. If you enjoyed this type of a webinar and you want more for pods, or you want more for step-by-step me showing you and talking you through developing with WordPress live and step-by-step, definitely, if you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. I'm really excited to say that this is going to become much more of a regular feature for both Facebook and YouTube. And if you want to dive in even further, make sure you visit over here at WPStudio.com, scroll down to the bottom, and subscribe for updates. We've got some great things coming, but you need to be on that list to get information for it. Now, what I will say, when you enter your email address, if this is the first time you've done it, you've got to confirm the email address. I will not send you anything if you have never confirmed the email address. You're not going to receive any spam. The only things you receive from WP Studio are, hey, we've got a special free event going on, or we've got a live training going on. We've got things that you might be interested in. So, visit WP Studio, scroll down to the bottom, enter your email address so that you can be aware of things that are coming in the future. And head on over to YouTube. And again, you can also get to YouTube down here. Click on this button. You can get to Facebook. Subscribe to those items, like the feed. And I really hope if you have, or if you want more of these type of webinars, please let me know. You can either leave comments in the chat at Facebook or on YouTube, or you can send me an email. You can always reach out directly to me, Benjamin at WPstudio.com, and I will try and respond as soon as possible. So, thank you, everybody. I hope you have a great rest of a day, and hopefully I'll see you on a future broadcast.